So, welcome to PD, everybody. It'll be public speaking today with Chuck Collins. He'll start off with a little bit of background and then give us his thoughts on how to be good and effective public speakers. So, Chuck, the floor is yours.
Awesome. What's going on, everybody? I got a little slideshow here, so I'm going to try to share my screen. All right. Can everyone see my screen? Nope. All right. Try it again.
I just I made you the host, so maybe hopefully it'll work.
There we go.
Sweet. Yeah, looks good.
Cool. All right, there we go. All right, what's going on, everyone? This is Public Speaking 101 with Chuck Collins. So this is an actual picture of me when Colonel Kramer asked me to do this public speaking course. No, just joking. But he asked me, he said, "Hey, Sergeant Collins, would you do this public speaking course for me?" And in my head, I said, "No, I do not want to do this public speaking course." But I looked him dead in the eyes and I said, "Of course, I'd love to." And it's both because I understand the importance of public speaking for both professional and personal growth. So here's what we're going to go over. It's some of the why public speaking is important for military members. We'll talk about some do's, some don'ts, some tips, how to improve, and I got a call to action at the end. All right, so why is public speaking important for military members? So most of us are going to use public speaking to inform, educate, either as instructors on the aircraft or in the classroom. But it's also to inspire and entertain, tell your story, and more importantly, tell the Air Force story, because you never know when you're going to get your chance to be on C5 Crips. All right, here we go. Here's the do's of public speaking. So first, you want to keep it simple. The key to good public speaking is being able to maintain the attention of your audience and don't overcomplicate things. You want to play to your strengths. For me, I got to have a very structured approach to this. I have an outline, and unless I'm very familiar with the subject, I'm not going to stray much from that outline. Know your audience. Who you're talking to is going to dictate a lot about how you present. Don't use jargon or slang that the audience doesn't understand, because then you're going to lose them. And then practice, practice, practice. This has to be the most important step. Don't ever go live your first time doing a presentation. You got to find out the little quirks and work them out before you even get started. All right, so here's some of the don'ts. I've been doing this a lot already. The use of the or a little bit is too much, but if you do it, it's going to get distracting. And then also don't read directly from the slides. It shows that you only know the material on the surface level, and you probably couldn't elaborate that much on it. All right, so here's some tips I developed just from presenting in the past. Is know where to go. It's so simple, but there's countless times I've seen presenters show up late because they couldn't find the building or they're having some kind of trouble in the morning. So what I do is if I know I have to present at a building that's not where I work, and say it's Monday morning, I'm going there Friday before I leave work, and I'm going to find where that building is. And then Monday morning, I'm going to arrive early. I'm going to go in there, get a feel for the room, and make sure everything is working. The last is be prepared for unexpected. I bring a backup copy of my slides. And then if you're having IT problems and that stuff's not working, don't spend 30 minutes trying to fix it. Just press on with the information and you can shoot the slides to everyone else later. So here's a big one. Tips for keeping calm. Um, Chances are your audience has no idea that you're nervous, and they're not going to know unless you mention it to them. One thing I've read that's really helped me stay calm during public speaking is that there's no one in the audience that's there that wants you to fail. Any anxiety you feel is internal to yourself, and people in the audience are only there if they need to receive the message that you're going to present. Like, no one's going to go there just to watch you talk. We're not famous. I like this David Goggins quote: "We have the ability to make easy things seem impossible. Stop losing the mind game against yourself." Here's another one of my tips I've developed: there's backstops. And anyone that's familiar with land navigation knows a backstop is it's like a landmark or something to let you know when you've gone too far. So how does that relate to public speaking, right? Things I do to develop these backstops is I might have like a friend in the audience, and I'll tell them, hey, if I get way off track, can you just ask me a question that'll lead me back and guide the discussion back to where I need to go? And another thing is you got to know yourself. And if you don't have a friend there, you have to be able to identify when you're getting off track before it's too late. So because you'll lose the audience. So how do you improve at public speaking? You're never going to get better if you don't do it. It's uncomfortable, right? But you have to step out of that comfort zone in order to find success. The more you do it, the easier it's going to get. And then ask for feedback. Your peers are going to give you honest feedback. After this, Nico probably going to hit me up and be like, Collins, you bombed that, man. What were you thinking? Hopefully not, but. And here's the call to action I promised at the end. I'm challenging somebody in the audience. I know that not everybody is confident public speaker. So somebody, this is your challenge. I want to see a Muley Toastmaster Club. I will join it if you create it because I need to work on my public speaking as well. And here are my sources. A lot of this information came straight from the PDG. There's a whole chapter on communication. And that's where I took most of this from. And then obviously TED Talks, and then Tyler Waters on C5 Cribs. All right, that's what I have for the slides. If anybody has any questions or wants to talk about anything, the floor is open.
Good stuff, man. Thanks. Yeah, so just kind of going off of Kramer's thing too, to kind of tie it all together. I think one thing that he brought up for starting speeches that I thought was really, really cool was start with a story or a rhetorical question and not a joke, because jokes, sometimes flop. Usually they flop and it's awkward. And then Colin's kind of like you were saying, man. So like from the beginning, if you get up there and you say like, I'm nervous, I don't like speaking in front of people, you immediately are degrading yourself and any sort of like validity you had going into that room. But if you just go in there and like just start talking, it's gonna go so much better. So yeah, I think that's a big one. It's like, don't do the jokes, and then don't say you're nervous, because nobody cares if you're nervous, really. It just makes you look bad. Do you guys have any tips for like gestures? Because sometimes people do the Ricky Bobby, and they just kind of start talking with their hands, and then or they do this thing where they're like doing jumping jacks on the stage. Anybody have any techniques or pro tips to keep your hands under control during a speech?
I'll have something for that, actually. It's helpful for me. It's kind of two birds with one stone. If you bring like a note card, I don't know what kind of speaking event you'd be doing at, if that'd be considered unprofessional. But usually for us, just briefing a group, having a note card is helpful. And it also keeps something in your hand, so it keeps your hands grounded. And yeah, you can refer back to it, and no one's going to look down on you for referring to a note card every now and then. And you can hold it with two hands and keep your hands down low. If you don't have one, fold your hands in front of you. Make that deliberate method. That's actually something that helped me, because I gesture a lot. As you can probably see, I'm still gesturing to the phone. And when I'm speaking like that, if I deliberately hold my hands in front of me and clasp them, then I won't do that, which helps me. And also I know there's a lot of young guys out there that really helped me when I started learning how to speak. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast, because when you start speaking and you're worried about saying and things like that, there's verbal pauses. What you don't realize is that you're actually speaking very quickly, and most people, unless they're very attentively listening to you, they're going to miss information anyway. So slow down. If you need to pause for a second because you need to think, you don't need to say just pause for a small second and then continue on talking, just like I am right now. It does come off very fluently, and you're able to give the information that you're trying to get out to people. See, look, I sped up right there. This is an example.
Yeah, that's good, man. As far as the note cards go, I mean, Colonel Pollock, Colonel Trumbull both use note cards, so as far as I'm concerned, I'm gonna keep using note cards for the rest of my career. And yeah, the speed thing is huge. So kind of like what Collins was saying is like, what do I do when I get down like a rabbit hole or I get down off some crazy path? The speed thing is what, at least from any of the stuff that I've done, like when I started talking fast, that's how I end up in some crazy rabbit hole because my brain and my mouth can't keep up at the same rate. So if I slow it all down, then I keep it on track for sure. Good,
Yeah,
man.
Miko asked what we do to ease our nerves before we start. And for me, I'm reviewing the material right up until the point that I'm speaking. Like I got these slides printed out in here and I was looking at them like, what am I gonna say? I recorded myself a few times just to see what it would sound like. Like I have to practice right up until the moment. I'm not someone that's like gonna go for a 10-minute walk or anything before that. For me, it's like I'm going until it's crunch time, and then you really don't have as much time to get nervous.
Yeah, I think for me, so like in my last job, I used to have to do like welcome briefs to like new people and graduations and stuff, like history of the base, all that sort of stuff in front of commanders and things. And the nice part was that speech was super rehearsed because I didn't even write the stuff. I just did the same speech like 100 times. But other ones went, and because of that, I got picked up for other random talking things. Kind of same thing, like just prep until it's time to go, but at the same time, like take a couple seconds to go back and just like close your eyes, get a good woo-saw in, and then just remember that somebody picked you to be there. Like you didn't just, this isn't karaoke night. Like you didn't just run up on the stage. Somebody was like, you know what? That dude's got good enough composure. That dudette's got good enough composure to be on the stage in front of people, and just rely on that. That sort of confidence that somebody else instilled in you by picking you. And with that, Captain Heather Denny is back, and she's actually got some training on public speaking. So I'll go ahead and I'll let her do some talking.
Can you hear me? Okay, cool. So mine is not on public speaking. I'm sorry I had to take a call, so I missed all that goodness just now. But I do not have any experience actually doing any public speaking, but a lot of you guys probably know I work in the CAG at the wing, and that basically just means that I write talking points and full-on speeches for the wing commander. So with that, they sent me to a Georgetown University speechwriting course for a week, which was actually super useful, surprisingly enough, and interesting. And a little while back, I posted the notes. I might do it again, just so that it's like readily available if anybody wants them. But that's like my biggest thing is using like those notes and whatnot, but I'll go over what I think is the most useful from those. And this is all, again, just for preparing a speech or talking points and how to, you know, captivate the audience, that sort of thing. So in here, and I'll highlight it when I post it, it's number 2 in these notes is what I think is the most useful. And it's called like creating a spec sheet, essentially just creating your outline and incorporating the details of the day. So you want to think about, you know, why they chose you or whoever you're writing for, in my case, to be the speaker, if there's actually a reason, or it's just, hey, they're the wing commander, you know, when it is and how that's going to affect the audience based on, you know, are they going to be sitting in the sun? Is it going to be super hot? Are they going to be freezing their butts off? That sort of thing. So you can kind of tie in your speech to that current day. But the biggest, most important part for me, and this has helped me write speeches in my personal life for like being a maid of honor, and then also for like changes of command and whatnot, is the outline. So starting out with a topic, and that's like what you want your overall topic of this whole speech, what's the point of it that you're trying to convey. And then that leads perfectly into what you want to achieve. So the plain topic, and then what you want to achieve using that topic. Then you'll pick 3 main ideas, telling people how you feel. And with these, you want it to kind of be like a punch in the face, something that people would, you know, potentially disagree with or provoke them, and then back it up with evidence. So you can make it come off in a way, not come off in a way, but you just want it to, you know, surprise the audience, to kind of always keep them on edge, keep their attention grabbed throughout, and then back it up with evidence. And then your bookends. So that is your opening and closing, which is a second part of the notes, which I'll also highlight. And the opening and closing is essentially tying in what you already created in your outline. So acknowledgments, thanking anyone that you need to, rapport or attention getting. So maybe, you know, making a joke, humanizing yourself as the speaker, connecting with the audience, or saying something super attention grabbing, something, you know, that will be like that punch in the face to gain their attention. And then you'll state whatever your topic was from your outline in 1 sentence, and then immediately following, state your 3 main ideas or your big points. And then you just repeat those main points throughout, because people remember repetition, right? The more times you hear something, the more likely you are to remember it. And so you'll repeat that in each of your main topic areas. And then when you get to your closing, you essentially just restate your topic, restate your main points, and that is it. Does anyone have any questions about preparing speeches or anything like that? There's a lot more in the notes, but that's what I think is most important.
I got one. So you're talking about like the 3 main points. You know, a lot of times, like, do you try to pick, you kind of mentioned picking sort of things that people may not agree with, or it may just like cause interest. Do you try to avoid using cliche things like, my 3 things today are fly, fight, and win? Or do you pick like, today we're going to talk about orange, and then we're going to talk about the color blue, and then we're going to talk about baseball, like something, like picking 3 like totally random things that don't really seem related, but then somehow in some weird analogy sort of way, the speechwriter kind of ties it all together to keep people interested. Have you ever tried anything like that?
I have not, but I think that's a really interesting way of, you know, captivating their attention, because again, just like you said, people would perk their ears to that, like, wait, what are these that this person is talking about? The only example I'll give that I've used of like something that's attention getting is, and who knows if they'll use it, but it's saying, you know, being commander of the largest air mobility wing is easy. Because, you know, a lot of people will be like, what? No, it's not. And that's like kind of a, you know, subdued version of a punch in the face, but just something that, you know, might pique people's attention, be like, what? To kind of get that. But I kind of like your idea of like orange, blue, triangle.
I've never tried it. I was really just curious if it would work. I got a question. I guess a question about questions. So in your experience, do you think it's better to, anybody's experience, do you think it's better to wait till the end for questions, or open up the floor in the middle and say, does anybody have questions on my first topic of orange? Or do you kind of say, what have you seen that helps to get the public or get the crowd engaged as far as like asking questions throughout speeches?
So they did talk about this briefly in that speech writing course, where if it's a speech, it should be no longer than 15 minutes, because audiences get bored. It's difficult to pay attention and to listen for that amount of time. And so if it's longer than that, they suggest having either breaks or making it interactive with questions and whatnot. If it is a speech, then I would tend to go the route of waiting for questions till the end, because hopefully your whole thing has a flow and ties together, and then the more closely that you restate those 3 main points or however many you have, the more likely they are to remember those in conjunction with each other and how they tie in together.
Nice. So like speech versus briefings. Cool. You don't have to name any names, but have you seen any people of rank like struggle with speeches, or like any sort of prep that they do that we could learn from?
I haven't seen much of the prep process for, we write for a couple of different people. One will, review, make it their own, make it personalized beforehand, and the other just wants it right before and will like read over it and then kind of just maybe use it if he needs it. And that's usually for like the talking points. I'm sure a full-on speech is different. So we'll see what happens if it changes the command.
Nice. Cool. I think so. A couple of like things I wanted to go over was we talked about the ums and uhs, but another one that isn't necessarily and that people do a lot is the that drives me nuts. So I mean, in normal conversation, whatever, but like it's another weird filler that sometimes people do a lot. So if you're one of those, maybe listen to yourself and try to not do that. And then the one that I'm super guilty of, like we were talking about gestures earlier, is I'm a podium gripper. Like I grab the side of that podium and I just like anchor myself and I just don't move at all. Cause I used to be a swayer, or I go forward, do the forward and back sway, the side to side sway, like I'm on a boat. So then I started just like gripping the heck out of the side of that podium. And it works kind of, except that I start to like white knuckle the podium. And then I guess, and sometimes I would occasionally like slap the side of the podium, like with like louder on accident with my head, trying to do hand gestures, and I'll hit it. So just pay attention to how you abuse the podium as well as the speakers. Anybody got anything to add? Like good or bad experiences of like speeches or briefings, or like tips for like when the IT doesn't work, when the computer doesn't work, what do you do? I'm looking at mostly current and former execs, or anybody of the type.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with tech is people rely on it almost too much. They forget that the purpose of what you're doing is to convey some sort of information. That's what any type of public speaking is. Like Collins said, you're not famous, so people aren't there to just hear you talk. They're there to learn or hear about something that you are going to present them. So technology is like a very useful and powerful presenting tool that helps you do that. But if you're the one presenting the information, if I took your PowerPoint slide away from you, like sure, it might degrade what you're going to be telling somebody, but in theory, you should still be able to be like, hey, slides aren't working, but like, here's the info that you're looking for. And it's not as easy to digest maybe, because like I had, done this work and used technology to make it a little easier to present, but here you go, like here's the information. So there's been a handful of times as an exec that, you know, all call slides have just not wanted to work, or some like flight leadership briefing, you know, the TV or the monitor was messing up. Who knows what it is, but all of those times, really all you can do without just like holding a bunch of people there and wasting everybody's time is like, hey, tech issues, like everybody understands that that happens and is a thing. Like, here's what I can give you without that, and here's the information, and enjoy the rest of your day. Like, don't let tech be like the reason you can't give people information or speak to them. Like, it should only help. It should never hinder. I think people, because they're afraid and don't like public speaking, use it to a crippling level. So.
Nice. Well, Zach, don't mute yourself yet, because I got a question for you, Jesse. So, kind of like what Heather was saying. So, as execs and like people that help others who give speeches regularly, what do you guys do that sets your boss up for success to give better speeches, since that still kind of has a hand in it all?
Yeah, so Heather went from the longest exec tour ever to a speechwriting gig for the wing. So everything she had to say was above and beyond really what we could tell you guys just as squadron execs. But my personal keys to success for helping set up someone else for a speech, like, you know, Colonel Trumbull for an all call, whatever, is, yeah, good prep, like Heather kind of said, and planning ahead of time. You know, if I tell Colonel Trumbull, like, hey, sir, you're addressing the whole squadron in 5 minutes about this, he could probably do it. I mean, he's a smart guy. He knows the squadron really well. And if I'm giving him a topic that he knows the information, he's charismatic enough where it's going to go fine. But it's going to go a lot better if I tell him the day prior, hey, you've got this meeting with the squadron, and it's about this, and here's like a PowerPoint slide that I helped build for you that like you probably want to be familiar with, so that, like Collins said, you're not like looking at it and seeing it for the first time with your audience, and like there's this weird pause where it's like, all right, we've all seen those briefings and speeches, right, where the next slide happens and the presenter is like seeing it for the first time with you. Oh, cool, that's what's on this slide. Like it just like takes away from the level of like kind of trust that you have that the person presenting you the info really knows what they're talking about. Like if they feel fully prepped and the slides are really just helping back up what they say, and they're not needing to even really reference it, like they know what's there, that's all stuff that if you're helping someone else, like giving him 5 or 10 minutes to look at the slides so that he knows what's on them, and 5 or 10 minutes to, you know, write a note card or prep and plan like Heather and McHenry talked about, it makes it seem less off the cuff and more like he truly is a master of the info that he's giving someone, even if he really only spent 15 or 20 minutes getting his stuff together. Because once you have practiced and do this stuff all the time, it takes less and less time of prep and planning for you to feel fully prepared. So
Good stuff. Thanks, man. Collins, I got a question for you, man. So you did this really well on your slides. That's why I'm calling you. So what like techniques do you have for building slides? You know, like I noticed your slides were very short and direct in wordage. They didn't have a lot of, you know, they weren't full sentences, and they had a couple pictures here and there. So like what kind of rules of thumb do you use for building slides?
So on the slides, you can put notes at the bottom. Not a lot of people will know that. So I had a lot of notes in the bottom of the slides. And then also I wanted to put pictures in there that would keep people engaged. So, and if I put too much on the slides, I probably would just sit there and read them. So that's why I'm keeping it short. So that way it forces you to elaborate.
Yeah, dude, I think you hit the nail on the head, Dan, there. Like, keep it short so it forces you to elaborate, because if it's too long, you're going to just read them, and then you're going to do what Zach was saying, where you're just reading the slides. Nobody wants to read them from the back of your head, right? So, yeah, exactly, man. Good stuff. I thought of two more like not pet peeves, I guess. Weird things people do when they do speeches is, especially like us flyers with our flight suits, the old zipper. I had an old commander that would just zip and zip and zip. I mean, he would never like get awkwardly low down to his like belt or anything, but he would just sit there and do this. And I was like, man, come on, sir, like you you should stop, right? Or even the weirder one is the chest pockets, because when they're closed, they're in a odd, inappropriate place. So like you sit there and you fidget with your zippers. So or the old the horse collar where you just hang. So I don't know. I usually just go with the arms crossed, or cup my hands in front of me or something like that if you can. But that can be super distracting. And then the last one I was thinking of, so I was talking about how I grab the podium a lot, but if there's not a podium and you can't control your hands, the old open the box, close the box technique. You keep them close. When it's time for emphasis, you open the box, you talk about it a little bit, and then when it's time, you close the box back. And that's like, I think that was like the best like basic one that got me away from the crazy hand gestures and knocking people out and knocking over microphones and stuff like that. So that's a good one. Anybody, there's got to be like one horror story out there that somebody's just like, you don't even have to name yourself. Like maybe you saw somebody do a terrible thing and during their speech and it was just absolutely horrendous. And if we can close with a good story, then we'll call it good.
I could do it. That just happened to me recently.
Okay.
So in my head, I've never practiced this, and I've been trying to like when I was PCA and I wanted to tell a story and use an analogy to compare like the CRW to working hard and roller coasters and fun. And so I had this full story in my head of how I was going to say it, and I never really had the chance. And then they presented my MSM to me, and they were like, Sergeant Collins, so where's your speech? And I said, oh, now's my time. So without ever practicing, I tried to give this speech, and basically what I said was the squadron sucks and I'm happy I'm leaving. And that's not what I meant to say at all. So yeah, I'm not giving an impromptu speech again without practicing.
Cool. Anybody else? Last second questions? No? Cool. Well, thanks everybody. That was a good one. I like talking about public speaking because I think it's one of those things that you can that could really impact your career. If you sound smart, you don't have to look smart. Like you can be ugly, but if you sound smart, you're gonna do better off, right? And then what? Oh, Kim said she's got some side notes, some other tips. She's heard don't play with your rings. Very good. And you can walk from the podium kind of do the old walk around. But don't get lost in outer space too far. Like that can be tempting. So that one can bite you as much as it can as much as it can help you. And that's right, Miller. Like you can be ugly. We all have chances because that's why we went to aircrew, because our looks can't get us that far. So we got to be cool and have good jobs. All right, y'all. That's all I got. Have a good rest of the week, and I'm sure I'll see you in another Zoom call tomorrow or something. That's all I got. See ya.